Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different, focusing on just one source.
That's right. We've got some excerpts here from William Boericke's Homeopathic Materia Medica.
Yeah, and specifically, we're looking at Ammonium Muriaticum, sal ammoniac historically. So our goal really is to just unpack this description, the one right here in Boericke.
Exactly. See what picture it paints, what symptoms, what characteristics come out.
Because in Materia Medica, in this tradition, it's like a collection of drug pictures, right? Symptom patterns linked to substances.
Precisely. And this one, Ammonium Muriaticum, it starts with a pretty serious general state. We're talking significant prostration.
Like bordering on a typhoid state, it says.
Yeah.
Weakness.
Yeah, and a lot about mucus secretions, either too much or they're stuck, retained somehow.
And it flags it as particularly suited, according to the text, for patients who are, well, how does it put it? Fat and sluggish.
Often with respiratory stuff or liver issues mentioned alongside that.
Oh, and this bit about circulation is interesting. Blood in constant turmoil, it says. Pulsations.
That's a strong image, isn't it? Constant turmoil.
Definitely. And coughs, you mentioned those.
Oh yeah, coughs are prominent, especially with profuse, glary-like, glassy or smooth secretions. That's highlighted.
Okay. But the thing that jumps out right at the start, really, is this weird timing thing.
Ah, yes. The aggravations, it's very specific.
How so? It divides it up.
It does. It says head and chest symptoms are typically worse in the mornings.
Okay.
Then abdominal problems tend to kick up in the afternoon.
Afternoon for the abdomen. Got it.
And then evenings are worse for limb pains, skin issues, and fevers. It's like a schedule for feeling bad.
Wow, that's incredibly precise. Head, chest morning, abdomen afternoon, limb, skin, fever evening.
Exactly. That kind of detailed timing is often a big clue in these older texts.
And there's one more general sensation mentioned early on, something about boiling.
Yes, a general sensation of boiling. It really sets the stage for the kind of unusual sensory details you find in this description.
Okay, so where does Boericke start with the specifics? Usually the mind, right?
Usually. And here it talks about melancholy, apprehension, like a deep-seated grief.
But there's a very specific detail here that seems important.
Which one?
Desire to cry, but cannot.
Yeah.
It links that to grief. So not just sadness, but this like blockage.
That inability to release the emotion. That's a very particular note.
Okay, moving up.
The head? Hair falling out is mentioned, along with itching and dandruff. A sense of fullness, compression in the head.
And worse in the morning. Does it say that?
It does. Worse in the morning, fitting right into that pattern we just talked about.
Interesting consistency. What about the eyes? Anything stand out?
It's brief, but mentions misty vision, optical illusions, even things like incipient cataract.
All right. Now, the nose section sounds unpleasant.
Yeah. It describes a free, acrid, hot, watery discharge. So irritating, it says, it corrodes the lip.
Ouch. Really? Corrodes the lip.
That's the description. Also sneezing, nose tender to touch, pain inside the nostrils like ulcers.
Loss of smell, too.
Loss of smell, feeling blocked up, always trying to blow the nose but getting nowhere. And an irritating itch.
That discharge, though, the corrosive part, that really sticks with you.
It definitely paints a picture. Then the face, inflammatory face ache, sore, raw mouth and lips.
Okay. And throat.
Throbbing, swelling in the tonsils makes it hard to swallow. But here's a classic quirky symptom.
Oh, what is it?
A sore spot behind the uvula that feels better when eating.
Better from eating. A sore throat. That seems completely backward.
Exactly. Those paradoxical symptoms are often seen as really characteristic in homeopathy, like a key indicator.
Huh. What else for the throat?
Internal and external swelling, sticky phlegm that's hard to cough up. Tonsillitis even mentions potential stricture of the esophagus.
Quite a range. Okay, let's move down to the stomach.
Thirst is mentioned specifically for lemonade, regurgitation, bitter taste, nausea,
Any specific pain?
a gnawing feeling, and pain in the pit of the stomach, the epigastrium, right after eating.
Right after eating, okay. And it even lists cancer of the stomach.
Yes, it lists it as a condition where this symptom picture might appear within this framework. It's connecting the symptom pattern.
Got it. How about the abdomen?
Mentions stitches in the spleen area, particularly in the morning again, maybe linking to that morning head-chest pattern.
Interesting connection. What else?
Pain around the navel, sometimes during pregnancy. Also talks about chronic liver congestion.
Linking back to that fat and sluggish patient type with liver issues from the start.
Potentially, yeah. Excessive fat around the abdomen, lots of gas, a strained feeling down in the groin area.
Okay. And the rectum. Sounds like more discomfort there.
Definitely. Itching, hemorrhoids, soreness with pustules mentioned. Stool descriptions are very specific too.
How so?
Hard and crumbly. Or sometimes covered in that glary mucus we heard about before.
That mucus theme again?
Yep. Also stinging in the perineum. And green mucus stools alternating with constipation.
Quite the contrast. And pain during or after.
Burning and smarting in the rectum during and after. And hemorrhoids specifically linked to suppressed leukorrhea are also noted.
Okay, that leads us nicely into the female symptoms section. What does it cover?
Menses are described as too early, too heavy, dark, clotted. And here's another timing thing. The flow is more profuse at night.
More at night. Okay, any pain mentioned.
Yes, a pain like a sprain on the left side of the abdomen during pregnancy.
And during menses itself.
Diarrhea can occur with greenish mucus stools. There's that green mucus again, and navel pain during the period.
So the navel pain connects to both pregnancy and menses in this description.
Seems so. Leukorrhea is described too like egg white sometimes, or maybe brown and slimy after every urination.
After urination specifically.
Nope.
It's just comparing this.
Yeah, it lists alum, borax, calcarea phosphoricum as other substances with potentially similar leukorrhea symptoms for comparison.
Right, helps differentiate. Okay, let's talk respiratory.
Starts with hoarseness, a burning feeling in the larynx.
And the cough. We touched on it earlier.
The cough itself is described as dry, hacking, scraping. It notes it's worse lying on the back or the right side.
Specific positions making it worse. Any other chest symptoms?
Stitches in the chest. Interestingly, the cough is said to become loose in the afternoon.
Afternoon. Wasn't that the time for abdominal issues?
It was. Maybe there's a connection suggested there, a shift in the body's focus. The loose cough comes with profuse expectoration, rattling mucus.
So sometimes dry, sometimes very loose.
Right. Also, chest oppression, burning sensations in small spots in the chest. The secretion might be scanty sometimes, or paradoxically, you might get a cough with lots of saliva.
Okay, quite variable. Now the back section. You mentioned something really striking here earlier.
Ah, yes. This is probably one of the most famous keynotes for Ammonium muriaticum in these texts. Icy coldness between the shoulders.
Icy coldness.
And crucially, it says this coldness is not relieved by warm covering. You put on a blanket, it doesn't help that specific spot.
Wow. That is really specific and weird.
It is. And it says that coldness is followed by itching.
Okay. Anything else for the back?
Bruised pain in the coccyx, the tailbone, especially when sitting, and a backache that feels like being squeezed in a vice, also worse when sitting.
Sitting seems to be an issue for the back here. What about the extremities, arms, and legs?
Pain in the fingertips described as if from ulceration. Shooting, tearing pains, again, in the tips of fingers and toes.
Tips specifically.
Yes, ulcerative pain in the heels too.
And you mentioned something about hamstrings.
Contraction of the hamstring tendons, that's listed. Also sciatica with a modality. Worse sitting, better lying down.
Another positional thing. Worse sitting, better lying.
It also lists neuralgic pain in amputated limbs, phantom limb pain, essentially, and offensive foot sweat. Oh, and foot pain during menses.
Feet hurting during the period. Okay. A lot going on in the limbs. What about the skin?
Itching again, generally worse in the evenings.
Evenings.
Yeah.
That fits the pattern, right? Limbs, skin, fever, worse evenings.
Exactly. Blisters can pop up on various parts and intense burning sensations that are better with cold applications.
Better for cold. Okay. And finally, the fever section.
Describes chilliness in the evenings, typically after lying down. And also on waking up. Interestingly, without thirst.
No thirst with the chills.
Okay. Heat in the palms and soles is noted, and it connects this fever picture generally to subacute low-grade fevers, maybe linked to unhealthy climates or conditions.
And it suggests a specific dose range here.
For this kind of low fever state, yes, it suggests using the lowest potencies, meaning the less diluted preparations in the homeopathic system described here.
Right. So, okay. We've gone through quite a lot there, from the mind all the way down.
We have. It's a very comprehensive picture laid out in Boericke's text.
And thinking back, some things really stand out, don't they?
Definitely. Like that desire to cry but being unable to, that feels very specific emotionally.
And the physical symptoms. That corrosive nasal discharge sounds awful.
Yeah, and the sore throat that gets better from eating, just so counterintuitive.
Totally. And that icy coldness between the shoulders that warmth doesn't touch, that's a really vivid image.
It is. And of course, that whole time, map head chest morning, abdomen afternoon, limb skin fever evening, it's like a signature.
The text even summarizes those timings under modalities, right? Making it clear.
It does. It says better in the open air and worse with those specific timings we keep mentioning, reinforces it heavily.
And it lists relationships too. Antidotes, things that might counteract it. Coffee, Nux vomica, causticum.
And comparisons other substances with potentially similar symptoms, like calcarea, seneca, causticum again, helps differentiate.
Plus that suggested dose range, 3rd to 6th potency mostly, except for those low fevers.
So when you go through a source like this, piece by piece,
Yeah.
you really do get a fast track, to understanding the very detailed, sometimes peculiar picture associated with Ammonium muriaticum, at least as described in the specific text.
It's incredibly detailed,
Yeah.
which kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, how does a system like this end up associating such a vast, wide-ranging, and incredibly specific set of symptoms? Emotional states, weird sensations like boiling or that icy coldness, the precise timing, the nature of discharges with just one single substance. What does that level of intricate detail tell you about how they were observing or how they understood the body's reaction to substances back then, as captured in a text like Boericke's? It's quite something to think about.
It really is. It points to a methodology rooted in incredibly fine-grained observation and pattern matching, trying to capture the totality of a substance's perceived effects. A fascinating historical approach.